our historic enrollment has dropped quite substantially. In 2004-05, we hit our peak at approximately 2,179 students. If you follow the graph up to our current enrollment of 1,408 regular district students and 327 open enrollment students, you can clearly see that our resident enrollment has declined due to many factors such as birth rates, house starts, aging population, things of that nature. There's a report on the website that outlines all of that. But to keep ourselves in a financially stable position, we've continued to increase our open enrollment by the excellent programs that we have in attracting students from all over Lorain County and parts of Cuyahoga County. Firelands has a performance index of 102, and our per pupil spending places us in the middle or lower, in the lower 50% of the county. Therefore, we are providing a very efficient education based on the cost per pupil. Our cost per pupil is just over $10,000, whereas if you look at other schools in the county, their costs are significantly higher, yet their performance indexes are lower. We do have an emergency renewal levy that will be on the ballot on May 5th. This was a levy that was passed in May of 2011. It generates approximately $1.5 million for the district. This is a renewal. I have to stress, this does not raise taxes. This is something that you are currently paying. The renewal costs approximately $12.96 per month. You already pay this amount. This was what was passed in 2011. And I have to state, and I know Mr. McCracken will speak to it, but our strong financial position is due to the efficiencies that we have instilled in the district. If the current funding proposal from the governor's office goes through as written, we stand to be in positive spending through 2019, 2020 potentially, which for schools in this day and age is absolutely amazing. For additional information, I do encourage you to visit the levy website at www.yesforfirelandschools.com. And finally, something that we talked about Monday night at our board meeting. We had the Community Voting Advisory Group present to us about the findings of the Voting Advisory Committee. The Voting Advisory Committee met 5 times to discuss the potential for a building project in the Firelands schools. As many of you know, our schools are very old. The middle school is over 100 years old. The other buildings were built in the late 50s. The educational environment here is not what one would consider a 21st century learning environment, and it does not provide our students with the best opportunities. The consensus for the Voting Advisory Committee was a brand new 612 building that would be built here on the 110 acres that we currently own on this site. There is a potential for a bond issue in November of 2015 if we successfully pass the May renewal of the operating levy. That is the key. Then we have the discussion about whether to provide our students with the type of facilities that they deserve to be successful as they move forward in their educational careers. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. McCracken, and he will discuss our finances.
What I wanted to do tonight, for those of you who've been at the Building Advisory Committee meeting, it's going to look really, really familiar. But I wanted to summarize the things that were discussed that night very quickly. We've been through a lot of financial difficulty, as most public school districts. Back in 10-11, we were facing about $1 million deficit. And we just wanted to run through very quickly for you where we've been, where we're going, and how we've gotten to where we're at. And where we're at is very stable financially. If you look back at the time, we've endured well over $1 million in cuts from the state government, from various funding sources, whether it's foundation funding or it's replacement TPP funding that would come from the state when they changed how they tax businesses the stop tax and business inventory, they then replace that with additional funding from the state. That's all been taken away from us. You look at that, and back in 2011, when the 1.5 million levy was passed, that was a big piece of that. The other piece of that, we'll get to in a moment, was going to open enrollment. But federal and state funding, we've dropped well over $1 million a year in funding from the state. And when you look at what was proposed by the governor going forward, we were going to lose another couple $100,000, about $140,000, I think it was, next year, and then cumulatively, the second year, we would drop almost $250,000. It is a very painful thing to look at. Federal funding at the same time has been going away. It's declined dramatically for us, and that puts pressure on the general fund because federal money tends to go to things like funding special education, technology improvements. Some of the other grants were for class size and math and reading improvement under No Child Left Behind. Those kinds of funding, as they go away, put pressure on the general fund because to support programs like that, especially in special education, that funding is going to revert back to the general fund. When you look at some other things that are very frustrating to me, some of the federal money has been diverted also to charters and other forms of schooling here in the state. But you look at what's happened. When we get our legislature and our governor saying that we're being funded at the same level that we were the last couple of years and we weren't being cut, that's not true. You get the same money at the top, but they start taking bigger chunks out the backside of you as you look at the money going out per pupil to charters, that's going up. So as you end up having happen, as you start, even with flat enrollment from year to year, these are really the same enrollment numbers of kids that went to charter schools, but you can see, but the per pupil amounts were going out the door a little bigger. So we're getting backside cuts from the state, even when they're saying that we're getting upfront the same amount of money.